Most people aren't asleep because they're weak. They're asleep because the false world was designed to keep them from remembering what they are. The Gnostics did not describe this world as a neutral place where the soul simply learns lessons and becomes better adjusted to the system. They described a false order, a realm of ignorance, a lower world ruled by rulers that don't want the divine spark to awaken. Those powers were called the Archons, and their greatest weapon is not force, it's forgetfulness. The Archons don't need to destroy the soul if they can keep it asleep. They don't need to erase the divine spark if they can bury it beneath the noise, distraction, and false authority. They don't need to chain the soul in iron if they can convince it that the prison is home. This is the deeper meaning behind spiritual sleep. It is not merely ignorance in the ordinary sense. It is cosmic amnesia. The soul forgets its origin. It forgets the light above the rulers. It forgets the pleroma. It forgets the monad. And once the soul forgets where it came from, it begins taking this lower world as the final truth. That's how the Archons win. They don't destroy the soul. They just convince it to mistake the counterfeit world for reality. In the Gnostic vision, the Archons are not simply symbols of bad behavior or inner confusion. They are rulers of a false order. They are powers of limitation. They are the keepers of the lower realm. They govern through imitation, inversion, and concealment. They imitate divine authority. They invert sacred truth. They conceal the soul's origin. And because they cannot create true light, they build systems that feed on borrowed light. They rule by keeping consciousness turned outward, always toward the world, always toward the body, always toward status, survival, and obedience. Because as long as the soul is fascinated by the lower world, it does not turn inward toward the hidden spark. And if it doesn't turn inward, it doesn't remember. And if it doesn't remember, it remains asleep. This is why Gnosis matters. Gnosis is not a belief. Gnosis is not joining a religion. Gnosis is not repeating sacred words while kneeling before some false idol in a religious building. Gnosis is direct knowing. It is the soul recognizing the truth of its own divine origin. It is the spark within you responding to the light beyond this realm. It is remembrance. And remembrance is dangerous to the Archons. Because the moment the soul remembers, the spell begins to break. Not because the world instantly disappears. Not because the rulers instantly fall. But because the soul no longer belongs to them in the same way. The asleep soul obeys the world because it thinks the world is all there is. The awakened soul sees the world as a lower construction, a temporary realm, a shadowed order, a world of illusion, not the origin of being. And once that recognition enters the soul, the archonic structure loses its deepest power. Because the prison depends on the prisoner believing there is nothing beyond the walls. If this transmission resonates with you, like this video and subscribe to the channel. This work is for those who feel the call of remembrance and know the false world is not the final truth. The Archons keep the soul asleep by surrounding it with false light. This is one of the most important things to understand. Darkness is not always obvious. Deception does not always appear as something to fear. Sometimes it appears as comfort. Sometimes it appears as success. Sometimes it appears as a beautiful system that tells you exactly who to be, what to desire, what to fear, and what to worship. The false world does not only use pain to trap you. It uses imitation. It offers false crowns. It creates false gods that rule false heavens. It teaches you false knowledge It gives the soul 1,000 things to chase, but none of them lead back to the monad. That is the mark of the counterfeit world. It may glitter. It may promise power. It may even speak the language of light. But it does not return the soul to its origin. It does not awaken Gnosis. It does not dissolve the illusion. It keeps the soul moving in circles inside the lower realm. This is why the Gnostic path is so difficult. It does not flatter the world. It does not decorate the prison. It does not tell the soul to become more comfortable in captivity. It says, wake up. Remember, look beyond the false rulers of this lower realm. Look beyond the veil. Look beyond the God of this world. Look beyond the architecture of the demiurge. The soul did not originate here. The divine spark is not a product of this realm. It is not manufactured by matter. It is not owned by the Archons. It belongs to the higher light. It comes from beyond this lower realm, and deep within you, beneath the noise of the world, there is a hidden remembrance that no Archon can fully erase. That remembrance may be buried. It may be dim. It may be surrounded by confusion, but nonetheless, it remains. The spark doesn't come from them. That is why they work so hard to keep it contained. The Archons rule through ignorance, but ignorance is not a lack of information. Ignorance is a veil over origin. A soul can know many things and still be asleep. It can know history. It can know scripture, symbols, rituals, and doctrine. It can know names and systems and traditions. But if it does not know itself as a spark from beyond this realm, it has not yet entered Gnosis. The lower rulers are not threatened by information alone. They are threatened by awakening. They are threatened when knowledge becomes a living fire within the soul. They are threatened when the soul no longer asks the world for permission to remember. They are threatened when the soul sees through the false order and recognizes that the highest truth does not come from the rulers of this realm. It comes from the light above them. It comes from the origin beyond origin. It comes from the monad. This is the bridge that many souls must cross. First, you see that the world is false. Then, you begin to ask who benefits from the soul remaining asleep. And that question leads directly into the Gnostic vision of the Archons. Because the false world is not a random occurrence. The push to keep you asleep is not accidental. The attempt to keep you clothed in ignorance is not innocent. There's an architecture to it. A pattern, a hierarchy, a system of concealment. And the soul must become wise enough to see it without worshiping it. Because some people discover the Archons and become obsessed with the prison. They stare at the rulers. They study the cage. They become fascinated by the darkness. But true Gnosis doesn't worship the Archons and their structures of imitation. The purpose of seeing the rulers is not to glorify them. The purpose is to stop mistaking them for the highest authority. The Archons are not the end of the path. They are part of what the soul must see through. Don't fear them. Remember who you are. You are more than they will ever be. You come from the light beyond all light, the origin beyond origin. You come from the monad. The Archons keep you asleep by convincing you that this world is all there is. Gnosis begins when that lie no longer works. Something within the soul starts to reject the spell. Something looks at the world and says, "This is not my origin. This is not the highest truth. This is not the light that I came from." And that recognition is the beginning of liberation. It's not a fantasy. It's not rebellion for the sake of rebellion. It's the sacred returning of the soul back toward the monad. In Gnostic traditions, salvation is not blind obedience. It is awakening through knowledge. It is the soul receiving the truth that frees it from the lower powers. This is why the Revealer appears in the Gnostic text. The Revealer does not come to comfort your soul. The Revealer comes to awaken it, to expose the rulers, to reveal your hidden origin, to remind your soul of the way back home. Jesus, in the Gnostic vision, isn't a figure demanding worship from the outside. He is the revealer of Gnosis, the one who brings light into darkness, the one who shows the soul that the rulers of this world are not the final authority, the one who calls the divine spark back to remembrance. That's a very different message than the world gives. The world says, "He died for your sins. Bow down and beg for salvation." Jesus the Revealer says, "Remember, the kingdom of heaven is within you." The world says, "You're just a worthless sinner." Jesus the Revealer says, "Don't you realize that you are God's?" The world says, "You belong to this realm." Jesus the Revealer says, "You are from the light beyond light." This is why the Archons keep the soul asleep. Because a sleeping soul can be governed. A sleeping soul can be named by the world. A sleeping soul can be moved by fear, desire, and intimidation. But an awakened soul becomes difficult to possess. It sees the world without being fully captured by it. It filters out the noise and doesn't mistake it for the truth. It walks through the lower realm while remembering the higher light. And this remembrance changes everything. The rulers don't need you to love the prison. They only need you to forget that there is anything beyond it. They don't need you to worship them openly. They only need you to never discover the light above them. They don't need to defeat the monad, because they can't. They only need to keep the soul from remembering its relationship to the monad. And that is why Gnosis is the key. Not belief, not performing rituals, not in your personal identity, but Gnosis. Direct knowing, the spark recognizing the light, the soul remembering its origin, the inner fire awakening beneath the architecture of the false world. Because once this begins, the Archons lose their grasp. The veil doesn't always fall at once, but the soul is no longer fully asleep. It has heard the call. It has felt the light within. It has begun to remember. And remembrance is the beginning of the return. So understand this clearly. The Archons keep the soul asleep because the awakened soul no longer belongs to their order. The awakened soul may still walk in this world. It may still move through matter. It may still speak, work, and endure the conditions of this realm. But inwardly, something has changed. The soul knows this is not the highest world. It knows the rulers are not the highest power. It knows the false light is not the true light. It knows the counterfeit is not the origin. And once the soul knows, it cannot unknow. That is Gnosis. That's remembrance. That's the beginning of the return. Beyond the false world, beyond the Archons, beyond the veil, and back toward the light of the monad. If this transmission resonated with you, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may be starting to see through the illusion, but doesn't yet have the words for it. Comment below, When did you first sense that this world was designed to keep the soul asleep? Your comments help build this field of remembrance, so others who arrive here know they are not alone on the path. And if you feel called to support the channel more directly, there are a few ways to do so. You can leave a super thanks on this video. Buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Magnum Opus 333, or you can visit the Magnum Opus 333 store on Teespring. The links are in the description below. And if you want to go deeper with this work, consider becoming a channel member. Memberships help sustain these transmissions and supports the creation of deeper monad-centered content for those who feel called to this path. Remember, your consciousness is the key that unlocks reality. Let's keep unlocking it together. Thank you for watching. Until next time.